The walls inside one of the world's biggest entertainment companies just spoke, and they whispered a single seismic name. In the world of global pop, there are headlines and then there are tremors. This week, the ground shifted not with a new song or a public appearance, but with a breach. A piece of internal dialogue, meant for a privileged few, escaped into the wild. And at its absolute center, an artist whose quiet periods somehow generate the loudest conversations in the industry. This isn't just another rumor. This is a leaked corporate perspective, a glimpse behind the curtain at how the architects of pop culture view their most valuable assets. And the focus of that confidential view has sent shockwaves from Seoul to Sao Paulo. Welcome to Celeb World Insight. If you want to understand how a single piece of paper can rewrite the narrative for a global superstar, you need to see this story from the beginning. The chain reaction started, as these things often do, in the digital shadows. A fragment of discussion from a high-level forum began to circulate. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a planned announcement. It was raw, internal assessment. And its subject was an artist currently away from the spotlight's direct glare. Within hours, that fragment was a firestorm. Fan communities from across the planet dissected every implied meaning. Industry watchers and media outlets, always hungry for a signal in the noise, pounced. This was the key they'd been waiting for. A direct line into the strategic mind of HYBE, and it pointed unequivocally to one individual. V of BTS Kim Taehyung. What was so explosive about this opinion? It wasn't merely praise. It was a cold, hard analysis of influence. It framed him not just as a popular idol, but as a persistent, dominant force within the company's global power structure. An influence that remains utterly undiminished by any period of inactivity. Think about that for a second. In an industry that often treats visibility as currency, how does an artist, while not actively promoting, command more strategic discussion than those who are? The leak created a multi-layered public reaction. The first wave was pure, unadulterated shock. The second was frantic analysis, with every word of the leak turned over for hidden clues. The third layer, widespread, international speculation. And the fourth most powerful layer, was a reignition of global public interest. It was as if the leak didn't just report on his influence. It actively demonstrated it in real time. The media landscape ignited. Major entertainment news portals in Korea, Japan, and the United States shifted from reporting the leak to analyzing its profound implications. This was no longer a story about a slip-up. It was a story about power dynamics. Senior columnists began publishing pieces pondering a fundamental question. What does it take for an artist to wield this kind of gravitational pull, where even private boardroom conversations about them become international headlines? The answer, many concluded, lies in something that defies conventional marketing. Taehyung's phenomenon is built on a foundation of authentic charisma, artistic sincerity, and a public persona that feels both legendary and intimately relatable. His influence isn't manufactured. It's grown organically, making it incredibly resilient and self-sustaining. One might say his influence isn't a campaign. It's a climate. Fan reactions were a spectrum of pride, concern, and feverish anticipation. Some felt a deep sense of validation, seeing the industry's inner circle formally acknowledge what they've known for years. Others worried the leak would lead to undue pressure or unrealistic expectations. But a significant portion saw this as a beacon, a signal flashing from behind the corporate veil that a new chapter, long in the making, was finally on the horizon. But here's where the plot thickens. The initial leak was merely the catalyst. What happened next revealed the true, unstoppable nature of this story. On day 2, the conversation evolved from "what does this say?" to "what does this mean for the future?" Industry analysts, who typically reserve such deep dives for quarterly reports, began publishing extensive briefs. These weren't blog posts. They were strategic assessments. Some reports, referenced by outlets like ours at Celeb World Insight, used a startling term. They labeled Taehyung a perpetual value asset, a figure whose cultural and commercial relevance remained stable and growing, independent of the traditional promotion cycle. This shift was critical. The discourse was no longer about a gossip item. It was a serious business analysis triggered by a security lapse. It proved that financial and strategic experts were watching him just as closely as fans. Simultaneously, a fascinating sub-narrative emerged. International luxury brands that have partnered with Taehyung in the past began exhibiting intriguing behavior. Subtle, almost coded social media activity from certain brand accounts and executives hinted that they were watching the storm unfold with knowing interest. One insider adjacent to a major fashion house was paraphrased as saying, "With him, the extraordinary is always the baseline expectation." This external validation from the high fashion world added a layer of credible, third-party confirmation to the leak's core message. Then, the data started to talk. Global search trends for Taehyung saw a vertical spike. Deep-cut archive content from years past began resurfacing and garnering millions of new views. Hashtags related to him achieved a rhythmic, hourly trend across multiple continents. The leak had effectively rebooted the global public's engagement engine, proving his searchability and fan-driven momentum are machines that never truly power down. This led to bolder, more speculative theories taking root online. Was this leak a deliberate, if unorthodox, teaser for a monumental solo project? Could it be connected to whispers of a cross-platform venture encompassing film, high fashion, or a legacy-defining musical collaboration? Or, more cynically, was it the result of internal factions within HYBE using his name as a pawn in a larger corporate chess game? The lack of a definitive answer from the company itself only poured fuel on the speculative fire. HYBE's silence was deafening, and in that vacuum, the story grew its own limbs. On the third day, the scope of the conversation expanded once more. A reputable Korean outlet dropped an investigative piece focusing on HYBE's internal strategy meetings for the upcoming year. While not naming names directly, their sources described a unique, standalone strategic position for one artist, citing self-sustaining global momentum as the key reason. The dots were not hard to connect. This investigative thread was picked up by international media, transforming the narrative once again. The story was no longer about a leaked opinion of Kim Taehyung, the BTS member. It was now a case study on Kim Taehyung, the cultural phenomenon. The leak acted as a prism, refracting the many ways the world views him. As an artist, a fashion icon, a business entity, and a generational touchstone. The controversy reached a new peak when data journalists and fan archivists began constructing elaborate timelines. They mapped the alleged date of the internal opinion against a shadow timeline of Taehyung's recent, discreet activities. Unexplained travel sightings, cryptic studio visits hinted at by producers, sudden follows by industry legends on private social accounts. Viewed through the lens of the leak, these innocent dots suddenly formed a provocative, tantalizing picture. Was he moving in plain sight all along? What began as a single page of confidential text had morphed into a global audit of one man's place in the modern entertainment firmament. The conversation became self-referential, analyzing the analysis, speculating on the speculation. It was a perfect storm of celebrity, corporate intrigue, and digital age virality. So where does this leave us? And what are the realistic implications moving forward? First, this incident underscores a brutal truth of the digital era. There are no truly private conversations in high-stakes industries. A single slip can trigger a cascade that forces entire corporations to recalibrate. Second, and more importantly for us as observers, it provides an unprecedented, if accidental verification of Taehyung's unparalleled standing. When internal documents cite you as a central pillar of long-term strategy, it's the ultimate insider compliment. It confirms that his influence is not a matter of fan perception alone, but of boardroom calculus. This leak, therefore, may serve as a pivotal prelude. It has reset the public and industrial expectation floor. It has signaled to the market that something significant is being incubated. Whether that's a 2024 solo album, a groundbreaking acting debut, or a global ambassador role of unprecedented scale, the world is now watching HYBE's next move with forensic attention. The pressure to deliver on this unspoken promise has been magnified 1,000-fold. For Taehyung, this whole episode is a double-edged sword. It reaffirms his colossal stature but also places an immense weight of expectation on his next official step. For HYBE, it's a lesson in operational security and a testament to the overwhelming interest in their crown jewel. For fans, it's a roller coaster of pride and anxious hope. And for the industry, it's a masterclass in how true star power, when it reaches a certain altitude, creates its own weather system. One could say true star power doesn't follow trends. It dictates the atmospheric pressure. The walls spoke. And now, everyone is listening for what comes next. If this deep dive into the mechanics of fame and leaks resonated with you, do the two things that help this channel Celeb World Insight grow. Give this video a like and subscribe for more content that goes beyond the headline. We analyze the signals so you understand the story. Let us know in the comments. Do you think this leak was an accident, or a calculated glimpse into the future?